Hi there, Morto here. Yorchi was asking about Soviet third world motorcycles based on BMW. And there's a lot of confusion about where and how they came to be. But the straight dope is that in the 1930s, before World War II started, the Germans set the Soviets up with a plant to build military BMWs, the flathead BMW. And they were at that time, I guess buddies. And so they set them up with a plant making a nut for nut, bolt for bolt BMW. Hostilities ensued. They continued to manufacture them until after World War II. And then they started and it was still an absolute BMW. In fact, the manuals were all the parts were interchangeable. They copied the manual just word for word. So they continued to build that bike into the 1950s, and literally unchanged. And then they started to evolve, or maybe in some cases devolve, their own version of it. So they started to make the KMZ, Kev motorcycles, and that's what this one is up here. And this is technically, I guess, a DNEPER, which was made in Kiev. And then later they moved a factory, because a second factory up to Irbit in Siberia, to get out of range of bombers, and that became the URAL. And this is a URAL over here. The quick way to tell the difference between a URAL and a KMZ is virtually all the URALs are overhead valve with these nice little round covers. The DNEPER version has a much more square cover and a little different frame, but the DNEPER was what the KMZ evolved into. The URAL is the IMZ. So back to the flatheads.
And what's this green one? Is this a URAL?
That's another URAL. Yeah,
okay.
That just has some homebrew covers on it.
Just the homebrew.
Yeah, that's another version of the URAL.
Okay. All right. So back to the
flathead BMW, and how it ended up in China was in I guess in the 50s. The Russians decided they weren't going to build the basic BMW style bike anymore, so they sold all of the tooling to China. China went ahead and built the bike. The first iteration of the Chang was again just a literal knock of the BMW. In fact, the parts are utterly interchangeable. You can take those parts from the Chinese bike and it'll fit on your BMW of the same vintage. Then they changed up a few things, mostly just in the electrics and the gas tank, a few things like that. They changed to an electric starter where the generator used to be. But this remains what you could still have them assemble. This is kind of a dirt ball, but this is the Yangtze 750 Chang, and this is what's still you could still have assembled there.
And then the new one has electric start?
This version has electric start. They moved the distributor off the nose of the engine to the side. They shuffled a few things around, but most of it still fits.
Is this electric start?
This is electric start.
Oh.
Yep. And,
so is it like a BMW? Oh, so it's right there on top.
Right there on top where the generator formerly was.
Okay.
And then they moved where the points were on the earlier ones. They put a little alternator in there.
Okay.
And so that's really the only difference. And then they changed up some switchgear and some electrical components. But by and large, everything still interchanges with the BMW. So this is not really a knockoff of a BMW. This is a BMW.
Okay.
They were made on BMW patterns with BMW made tooling, or at least designed, and it is a direct lineage BMW. And I know some guys would argue about that, but it's like a Ford made in Australia.
Right, or Ford made in Canada.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They still afford. Well,
yeah.
This is still, and in essence, a BMW. Now, the quality and the fit and finish isn't what BMW did. And there's been some, you know, minor changes, but it's still the same thing. So,
and is
a
it
lot of happy motoring here, you know?
Yeah. And is it, what's that?
That's the grab handle.
Just a grab handle. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And they had center stands, and the biggest difference between the military version, the People's Republic version, and this civilian one is probably just the gas tank.
Okay.
The gas tank doesn't have a toolbox in it.
And this has leaf spring suspension?
Leaf spring suspension on the car.
Okay.
Yeah, that's and again, the car.
And it
is
still
really
has the
good.
levers from like the, what,
Still has the
1930s?
same inverted
Oh,
levers.
I love those. Yeah.
Yep.
Too cool.
The headlight is essentially the same.
Yeah.
But these have kept a lot of BMWs going. A lot of the guys with their original World War II BMWs have been able to keep them going because Chang was around and the Russians and you see these things all over the world. I've been, I mean, all over the goddamn place, and you see URALs and DNEPERs and stuff, and the saying was always with these Soviet machines is that if it doesn't break in the first 1,500 miles, it never will. They will go and go and go, and they're very
cool.
repairable. I am terrible about taking care of these things. I used to be really into them, and now they kind of languish in a dusty barn.
But you could pull this out in.
I could pull this out in a day. I would probably have
typical.
this back running. And
Yeah, so it's like a Model T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just suffering from a bad owner right now. Not a bad.
We're in the same club.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Well,
like them.
cool.
They're cheap, good fun. I would cheerfully sell this if somebody showed up.
Oh.
And I got a the 750 version up here.
Okay.
That's the DNEPER or the KMZ.
Right.
And to build one of these days. So,
Oh, cool. Well,
yeah.
that's a great little overview.
Yeah.
Well, thanks,
And,
Morto.
I highly recommend them. They're slow. If there's anything wrong with these, they're slow.
And they're
50
not
mile an
two-wheel
hour.
drive, or they're just the typical.
Just a regular,
yeah.
Slower than shit, and you can get a better carburetor on them. You can mess with the head a little.
But what I found riding sidecars is people are nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice when you're on a sidecar.
If you take the sidecar off this bike, it will drive pretty well.
Okay.
It'll run pretty nice. The head angle is good.
Okay.
If you take the sidecar off these newer URALs, they're shit.
Okay.
They steer too quick. The geometry's wrong. They're too tall.
Oh, cool. Well, this is one little garage at my buddy Morto's place in Missoula, and there's a cool little overview. And how do you say it again?
Chang Jiang.
Chang Jiang.
Chang Jiang.
All right.
Now, if you really want to get into the weirdo stuff,
Okay.
I have an engine sitting over here.
Oh.
That's
You know what? Yeah.
What you want to tag on to the end of that?
Yeah, we'll add that because that is a weirdo engine. All right.